Hey, it's Debbie Potts, and I wanted to review some slides I made a couple years ago talking about how to match your fueling with your training and how to prepare for fueling on race day. So, Dr. Dan Plews has a website, EndureIQ. They have some courses that anyone can sign up for and do. You just have to pay for them and take them yourself if you're interested in learning more about the science behind fueling and training for endurance athletes. I know women and men are different, so Dr. Stacy Sims might give you some different information than the DRIQ program. They do talk about men and women, the differences. Everyone has a little different opinion, but the answer is always it depends. That's why we do personalized coaching and testing, not guessing and experimenting, course correcting, because we're all different. Looking at your genetics really helps. So I want to share some information that I've gone over before. I know people are going into their middle of the race season. So this is when you don't add so much anything new, but just to review if you have a fall race. So this is from an article on enduriq.com, fuel right time carbohydrate manipulation to make every session count. So here's one of my favorite infographics I send to clients to review. If you are training for endurance, your fuel, protein, healthy fats, low carbohydrate. And I'm not about no carbohydrate. I'm all about eat nutrient dense food, prioritize your protein, get that protein goal of ideal body weight in grams of protein per day, spread out every 3 to 4 hours. So that might be difficult for a lot of people to get 30, 40, 50 grams of protein per meal and hit at least 100 grams of protein a day. But not all protein's different. So it's a different video. Athletes, we do need to really work on timing our carbohydrate from real food sources, getting nutrient density in our food, in our meals, in and after workouts. In the workout, you may find yourself struggling to digest food properly. So then that's where we come into being more efficient at fat metabolism and can tolerate carbs a little bit later in the workout. So it's all strategic carb timing. So endurance article here. Let me get the top of it. Can't read. 4 to 24 hours beforehand is having the protein, healthy fats, and low carbohydrates. An hour before your workout, endurance workout would be protein and healthy fats. So for me, it's easy to digest. I can't have a piece of meat and go work out an hour. So for me, my body takes longer to digest food. I actually thrive and do much better with a higher meat-based diet, but I also can't go work out with a big, heavy meal. So protein for me before a meal might be some I've been experimenting with cottage cheese, which I avoided dairy cottage cheese for the last 10, 15 years, but I can tolerate it. So I might have that with some berries, and that would be an option for me. But protein, healthy fats, you can experiment with maybe that's in your coffee, having a coffee with some MCT oil or some grass-fed butter or ghee, and then adding a scoop of unsweetened grass-fed whey protein or a bone broth protein or a beef protein. Now, during early stages of training, Dan Plew's research shows more of a fat-based fuel when you are doing a zone 1-2 workout, right? So you're training your endurance, you should be burning mostly fat here, burning a little bit of carbohydrates. So we don't need to have a ton of carbohydrates if you've been training this way for a while and you're more of a quote unquote fat adapted athlete. Electrolytes, he says until an hour, 20 minutes. I like to use Real-Lite or LMNT. I need unsweetened because I don't do stevia. Gives me a headache. And then I've been using S Fuels Frame in my zone 2 workouts. I do have a bar if I'm going for a long ride, 3 hours, 4 hours. If I do eat a meal before a bike ride, I don't need to have a bar for a while, but I need something. And then Dan says here, during later stages of training, carbohydrates post hour 20. So when you're going longer than hour 20 minutes, then you can add in some bar. Now, the bar I use is currently Laird's Superfood Bar, has some plant-based protein, but it's got some mushroom adaptogens in it, and it has a little bit of carbs. And I do well with just having half a bar. So I cut it in pieces or just break it up. So I can just grab a half a bar at a time or even quarter bar. Now, post-workout, they suggest protein. And I think nowadays, some people would say add some carbs in there as well. I know you're not just burning fat, you're burning some carbohydrates in there. If we do metabolic testing, you see that you're always burning a little bit, not just 100% fat. So post-workout, having maybe a grass-fed whey shake and having a meal when you're starting to feel hungry again post-workout, maybe hour, 2 hours afterwards. So your focus here is zone 1, zone 2. So the target fuel source is increasing your fat oxidation. Okay, so that's for endurance training. That's where you're doing your long ride, your long run, you're doing a long swim for triathletes, doing a half Ironman to a full Ironman distance, or maybe you're doing a 50K trail run. You'll spend a lot of your time here. If you're doing a long bike ride, a big bike event, so same thing. Now, when you're doing some Ironman specific pace work, you may start to implement this in once a week. As you get closer to your race, you may have more race specific training. Early in the season, we're doing a lot more of this zone 1, 2 workout. If you're newer to endurance sports, you're spending more time here building that base. If you're a retired athlete as myself who did this for years, my base is pretty good in zone 1, 2. And as an aging female athlete, my body does better with shorter workouts with more 20, 30-second intervals when I run, and then rest, walk, jog, and then sprint. Not doing a ton of workout zone 2. I'll do one long run a week and then just short stuff. Bike ride, I'll do one long bike ride, and then I'll do 2 others that have some hills in it and do some intervals. But if you're new to this and you are training for a race, I'm not training for anything, I'm just training for life. That is where I would suggest not doing so much speed workout if you're newer. Again, we're guessing. So if we can do your metabolism tests, I would be able to learn more about where you are, how much of a base do you have, how efficient you are at burning fat. So I'll show some slides in that in a second. Now, going back to this chart, you can see the fuel source 4 to 24 hours before, protein, healthy fats, carbohydrates. So you're still having a meal. If you're going to work out 4 hours later, you have your workout. That's like, if I got up early on a Saturday, we're not going to ride until 9 a.m., have a meal. But if I'm going to roll out of bed, get ready, I'll grab coffee and make it more of a fat coffee with maybe some unsweetened whey protein, which I haven't done because I don't like the taste, but maybe I'll add some amino acids in a capsule form. So that's kind of a gist. You can go into this yourself, but find it on Dan's EndurIQ website. So just look at the tempo change, how the fuel is going to change during early stages of training to later sessions. So if your tempo workout is going more than 90 minutes, you'll need to add some carbohydrates. So look at your strategic carb timing, not eating crap, but eating good quality sources, as S Fuels or Vitargo has some, I'll show you, and you can. Maybe it's Martin gel, some people like. You have to figure it out yourself because everyone's different what they do well with. But you're looking at improving performance here. We're not trying to stay in ketosis while you're doing a workout that's a tempo workout. You're working on speed and power. So we're looking at increasing your fat oxidation so I can still burn some fat. I'm not going so high. So this is more your zone 3 when I do your metabolic testing. And you're increasing your fat oxidation here still. You're not up in zone 4 is 5 where that's going to be 1 to 4 minute pieces. This is more tempo. Maybe you're doing 20 minutes, and we'll go into that in my slide presentation. Now, if you're doing a high upper tempo, that'll be more top of zone 3. That's maybe where you're adding a little more carbohydrates, and then an hour beforehand, protein, healthy fats, carbs. So maybe this, if you're doing an early morning workout as myself, I'll have this would be your dinner before the night before. So before 24 hours beforehand, right? So fat-based fuels, electrolytes, and then if you're going over an hour, then you can add in something as S fuels, zone 4 fuel, increasing fat oxidation, sustained intensity. And then we've got these higher end. So threshold, VO2 max workouts, anaerobic capacity. So you can see that's where it's going to change a little bit more. Your pre-workout will be moderate to a little bit higher carb focused in your meal, maybe some berries, maybe half a banana with some nut butter, looking at what you can tolerate food-wise, digestion-wise, and try not to get the packaged foods because it's filled with garbage. A lot of times I look at ingredients that the food they're eating, and it's filled with all these vegetable oils, seed oils, and guar gum and all this other fillers, preservatives. So look at what you're eating, choose real food first, make your own little bars. Now, again, going into more carbs because you're more zone 4, zone 5 workouts here. Post-workout, that's where you're adding a little bit more carbohydrates. So I like to, again, look at berries in a shake or something's easier and look at those options. So if you go back to this article, this is what we're doing when we're doing your metabolism test, right fuel, right time. So if you can see the changes in percentage of fat for the carb oxidation when we manipulate your fueling source and how you're training. So increasing power output, pre versus post, right fuel, right time. Power output pre and post are identical, but the data is protected. So what they're saying is their watts, their workout here, what's changed, the carbohydrates are the white, the squares, and the dark black squares are fat burning. So the fat went down as the power went up, about the same point. And then here, the fat dropped down later on and the carb went up. So you can see the changes, and percentage of fat fuel was a lot higher here versus it's down here, say that's 45, 50%, and this is up at almost 75%. So that's a good article about not low carb. I don't think we're saying is just strategic carb timing when you have it. So he talks about carb periodization. And that's why I like using the lumen with clients so we can figure out, do I need to add in more carbs? Because if a lumen score 1 is burning fat, 5 is burning all carbohydrates, 3 is 50-50. Well, if I have my morning breath measurement on lumen and I'm showing a 3, and I'm going to do a strength workout with some cardio blasts as I did this morning, and then I went for a run with 20, 30-second sprints, I should be having my body fueled for that workout. I should be burning a 3 or 4 or even a 5 on the lumen. If I was planning that workout and my lumen had a 1, well, then I would probably need to change my workout, or I need to have a little snack. So that's something we've been talking about in my podcast. Great information in this article. I'll let you go back and read. S Fuels has a great new handout. So if you go to S Fuels or email me, I could send this to you, but they have this nice little right fuel, right time that we did a podcast with them earlier this year and one last year with Leighton, but it's a great fueling guide. So the right fuel, right time approach, specific fuels for your specific training, just kind of the chart we went over, and their new branding I just love, because as I do metabolic testing, as you know, I'm looking at your 5 zones and we want to match fueling with training. So how brilliant is it that now you have an option how you should fuel? And I'll show you the UCAN and Vitargo up here, but I just think this is super brilliant that they're looking at, okay, I'm in a zone 2 workout today. What should I have for fuel? I'm doing a zone 3 tempo workout. What should I do? Zone 4 and zone 5. So the explanation is on here about fat oxidation is a key factor for your performance outcome, preserving glycogen and having your body be able to burn fat as your main fuel source. But as intensity goes up, you are using glycogen, but not as much. You're able to keep burning fat at a higher level and preserve that glycogen to the end. So it's that suitcase, you're not depleting the suitcases as fast. So both low carb specific nutrients help build resiliency for your gut as well. So we want to focus right now, if your race isn't coming up right away, on this stronger aerobic base, building your gut resiliency. Because if you start doing all this high heart rate workout, you're probably burning more carbohydrates, keeping more oxidative stress. We want to watch out for high stress workouts because that is creating more gut disturbance, creating leaky gut. Stable, high intensity finishes, high intensity glycogen preservation, and fuel efficiency, strong, resilient gut. So train gut resiliency, you'll have a rapid carbohydrate gut transit. So they talk about that on their YouTube channel, improving aerobic capacity and power. So having this test that I do with Pinoe metabolic testing is that carbohydrate usage and the fat usage goes down as we just went over. So that fat ox rate, they talk about fat oxidation rate. Where are you burning the most fat? What intensity? So this example, like 200 watts, 70% of the energy is coming from carbohydrates. Now, 3 times the fat oxidation, they have 2 times more power. So this example, by adjusting their training and fueling, they have this huge difference. Look at that difference in these graphs that you can see that the fat oxidation is 1.8 gram a minute versus 0.53 grams a minute, and they're over 300 watts. So at 300 watts, you're getting 80% of their energy from fat. That's amazing. So this is what we're working on when we're training your aerobic engine and seeing how we can move that metabolic crossover point where the carbs come up. You can see here, fat drops down. This is kind of ends up being their zone 2. So that's how I used to train when I was racing competitively in Ironmans and marathons and cycling. My last metabolic test that I could go 160 something heart rate and still be burning primarily fat. So my crossover point was high because I trained that way and I ate that way. So we really want to look at how we can perform our best as endurance athletes. So, working on not focusing on carb-centric fueling, the right fuel, right times, kind of the slogan is S fuels that I love, but we're just learning how to improve our fat oxidation. So they call it fat oxidation optimization. So we're training and fueling the way, getting the find carb protein intake to help our performance. We begin to shift and train the muscles to become less reliant on carbohydrate as fuel. We get the right enzymes and the right transporters to get the fuel into the muscles. So with this method, by our fueling and training, they can show in the lab 2 to 3 times improvement in the fat ox efficiency. So by using fat, glycogen can be better preserved, lactate production and perceived exertion reduced. So remember, lactate though isn't a bad thing. We recycle lactate as fuel. So it's not what makes us have the burn. Listen to my podcast with Joe Friel on that. So fuel substrate resiliency, restrictive and timed use of fuel substrates, caffeine and L-carnitine. I've been using that, the S fuels primed, showing enhanced utilization of different substrates during different intensities. So a training a little bit lower carb doesn't mean no carbs. That's still 100 to 130 grams a day. This isn't saying 50 grams of carbs a day. This is for the athlete, the endurance athlete. And 100, 130 grams, maybe some people can tolerate 150 grams, but you're looking to fuel for performance and looking at that timing when you add in more carbs around the higher intensity workouts. But remember, if you're training for an endurance race, you want to be spending more time improving that fat burning engine so you can be less dependent on carbohydrates. So you're able to burn fat at higher intensities and less dependency on the carbohydrate intake. So you can see on the left side of this chart, there's 4 major issues of having excessive dependency on carbohydrate-based fueling. You blunt the aerobic development, spiking blood glucose and insulin does blunt fat oxidation. During greater dependency on carbohydrates for fuel, additionally, consistent use of fructose in fueling formulas have shown to suppress the glucose transporters called GLUT4 and the fat transporters, limiting the efficient carbohydrate and fatty acid flow into the muscle cells. This is blunting the training effect of aerobic exercise. So if you are training for an endurance event, this is talking to you. If you are training for improving the aging process and you have excessive stress in your life, you shouldn't be training for an endurance event. You should be just working on training for life, and this would be a different story. We wouldn't be doing all this long stuff because it's causing more stress in your body. And doing a lot of higher intensity duration workout, so you're not doing the 10 to 20-second sprint intervals, less stress. So that's a great option for people that do have stress but need a little cardio burst. And doing tempo or just those hour, 2-hour workouts that you're in zone 3 is just too stressful in your body. So we want to look at, avoiding the bonk, avoiding the crash, not having that fat ox efficiency. If you have over dependency on carb intake, having to have a lot of carbs every 30 minutes on your workouts, you might look at what pace are you training at. Now, gut GI stress is a big part of why I got into this field, because when I started doing Ironmans in 2001, I would be doing what I read to do on fueling, and I would be throwing up the entire bike ride because I was trying to intake all this stuff, calories in a bottle, and it just was sitting there. So I had a lot of GI stress, not diarrhea, but just more vomiting, bloating, and trying to get out all the stuff I just took in. So that would have a disruption of the GI, the microbiome disruption, I'm sure, as well, but also causing leaky gut. So you're disrupting that gut membrane lining, the integrity of the gut wall lining. That mucosal barrier is just one cell thick, so it's easy to irritate it. So then we get chronic inflammation the longer we are working out and raising our blood sugar up constantly. So chronic is never good and leads to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation leads to chronic cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, arthritis, all sorts of things, right? So we want to check our labs, check your A1C, but get your insulin tested, get your CRP for your inflammation, get your labs done every 4 to 6 months, and know if you're doing all the right things to help improve the aging process, not do these races and break your body down. Going back to the benefits of having more mitochondria producing more energy, research here says that training more low carbohydrate, and remember, that doesn't mean 0 carbs. I'm still saying, having those carbohydrates, 20 to 60 grams, depending on your intensity per hour, is recommended if you're racing. But specific substrates can help. Adding in something as medium chain triglycerides can help mitochondrial biogenesis. With the glutamine that S Fuels uses, that can help with the mitochondria. Also, I've read glutamine is beneficial amino acid for repairing the gut wall lining. So also they talk about gut resiliency is related to that glutamine as well, because that's shown to support and help reduce exercise-induced leaky gut. So gut permeable markers. So really looking at endurance exercise is not good for you. So, just know that you want to improve that fat oxidation rate. You want to improve your VO2 max. but you need to do it the right way so you're not impacting your health of your future self. So what my mission is to help you learn how to fuel, train, and perform your best in life today and for your future self. And I did Ironmans and 50K runs and 200-mile bike rides and a lot of endurance events, training low, but I was too low carbohydrate on top of a stressful job. I'm running my own fitness studio, working at 5 in the morning, not getting home till 8 at night, that I was doing this low carb approach and just probably not eating enough calories. So you'll hear the word LEA is low energy availability. So really learning how to fuel, but eat enough calories, get that protein in. Don't do these fasted workouts, at least eat beforehand and have food during your workout. Don't take this as eating nothing. Being fat, improving your fat oxidation means that you don't have to eat all the sugars and the gels and the bars. I can go, as I did on Sunday, did a 5-hour bike ride, and I had, I think, a total of 2 layered bars, and I had S Fuels Train, and I had Element in my bottles. So individualize it. You are unique. Your other stresses, your gut health, your heart rate intensity, your metabolism, we don't know about. So how to train and fuel. Choose the right type of workout. Aerobic, long, slow distance is zone 2, or long sustained distance doesn't mean you have to be slow. Long sustained distance is zone 2. If you're doing a tempo, high intensity, or interval training, so zone 3 or 4, zone 5 is the sprint interval training, then you'll pick a different fuel source, right? You're burning different fuel source. So if you have prime fat oxidation transporters in muscles, if you want to work on that, the S Fuels primed before workout has L-carnitine and green tea, some B vitamins. I really love it. And it did not give me a headache, and I'm super sensitive to everything. Now, fueling during your workout, you'd have S Fuels Zone 2, which was S Fuels Train, changed a little bit. Or if I was going longer and I started to do more tempo race pace towards the end of a workout, I would maybe add in some zone 4 workouts because I'm trying to hit higher intensity, higher fuel source. So think about that when you're training. And the suggestions is S Fuels on here. So post workout or before training can have a shake. I really like their Revival shake, or there's their bars. Okay, so you can do that before. How to race is a little different. So racing, you're doing 30 grams to 60 grams per hour based on pre-race simulation testing. So nothing new race day. You maybe have a prime before the race start. You're drinking a zone 4. So that's their suggestions if you're racing. I know a lot of people do a half or full Ironman and they're not racing. They're not trying to win as Dan Plews. So it depends on what you're doing. So they're primed, and then during the workout, maybe you're having zone 4 and zone 5 if you're racing. But if you're doing a half to full Ironman, maybe it's going to be different, right? So here's great examples of what to do before, during, and after. For half, here's for a full Ironman, half marathon. There's some good examples. And so, it's not saying not eat carbs, it's getting carb timing and fueling it based on matching fueling. And, what carbs to have, like rice, sweet potato, but you're cooking and cooling it. Those are called safe starches. So those are easier to digest, right? So you're avoiding high carb cereals, breads, baking items, juices, candy, gels. So check that out. I just want to share that it goes on 19 pages, but S Fuels 2 explains it all. There's videos. We did a podcast with Dr. Mickey going over some of this, but I just think this is such a good resource to share. So, check that out. Now, I'm not in a relationship with S Fuels. I just think it's pretty brilliant what they're doing. I used to use UCAN when I first started getting into more low carb fueling. I found this and it works for me if it stays cool. I know some people had gas, and I have some people that can't do corn, and it's a non what's called modified corn starch. It's called Live Steady. natural flavor xanthan gum. So if I do food sensitivity tests, I know some people can't do xanthan gum, sodium citrate, citric acid, monk fruit extract is their sweeteners. So I can't do stevia, but monk fruit doesn't bug me. So I always look at the ingredients and see what works best for you. But you can 90 minutes or more of energy, easy on the stomach, zero sugar, no spikes, and crash. So that's another option. Mix 1 scoop of their energy with water, allow 30 minutes for it to work. So I did podcasts with UCAN, I don't know, 10 years ago. They're somewhere on our archives for the podcast, but sugar-free, 90-minute or more, I think it's a great option too. So just test, as a lot of people like this. I drink it, sip on it before a race. That was another option, just nice, steady flow. So just read the ingredients, make sure you can work on that. You don't have any food sensitivities, and then you can test it out and see how it works on your gut. So that's a long lasting energy. I like the orange, and I'm going last you 90 minutes. Then you might need another one, gentle on stomach. It's a time release profile. So check out that. You can. The other sample I've never tried because I can't do a lot of carbs. I'm very carb intolerant according to my genetics. But Vitargo is another example of a different option for some people that can tolerate this. So there's Science of Vitargo, and you can check them out as well. 2-hour greater endurance performance compared to maltodextrin and sugars. Fastest mouth to muscle carbohydrates. So it's quick, faster emptying from your stomach into your muscle. So check them out. I haven't tried it, but I know some clients that do that. So if you're looking for maximum strength and power output, good fuel for your muscles because the better delivery. If you want to boost endurance, increase strength, energy, quicker recovery, Vitargo is the only carbohydrate peer-reviewed university studies to do it all. So that is another option. So a few different options to look at. S fuels, UCAN, Vitargo. All right, so let me know if you have questions, and if you want to check out your metabolism, come to San Diego or I can come to you. So let me know, and we will see you next time. Have a great day.